started with roll call.
Mary Boyd, Larry Delo,
Here.
Brent Felchlin, Tom Gavick,
Here.
Maya Romboy, here, Rich Starry.
Here. All right. Let's move to approval of minutes of the November 9th, 2022 board meeting.
I'll move to approve. Second.
Okay. Seconded by Larry, seconded by Rich. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Item 3, public comments on any matters not on the agenda. Good. Board members, good. All right.
The mics are muted. I'm unmuted.
All right.
Unmute it.
Let's move forward with item 4. Review definitely the Pere 2022 annual report and financial statement. Tina?
Yeah, good morning.
Dan.
I think we can probably skip to page 4, Dan. Yeah. Or I'll give a quick overview for those that are in the audience. The bid, so the Business Improvement District is ongoing assessment. We are contracted, definitely Pere is contracted by the Business Improvement District to implement programs that are really aimed towards promoting, enhancing, redeveloping, developing, and maintaining the district. We have objectives that I think we'll be going through in our operating plan, so we can skip over that. Just want to, on the next page, give a little bit of an overview of bids in Wisconsin. Wisconsin has 86 active bids, and the average bid assessment statewide is $3.23 for every $1,000. DPR's assessment is currently $2 for every 1,000. Average annual operating budget of organizations that manage a bid is $301,410. Definitely DPR's current proposed operating budget is $360,000. And the second column or second half of the page just shows types of activities that bids focus on. 94% do promotions, marketing, and events, which definitely DPR does. Physical improvements, 85%. Streetscape development, 77%. Public safety, and you can kind of run down the list, 36%. Business recruitment and tension, 32%, which definitely DPR does. Parking improvements, 15%. Snow removal services, 7%, which I know we'll be talking about this morning, and job training programs. So those are the primary activities that bids are involved in. Revenue sources, many bids actually rely solely on their bid assessments, but those that do not also receive funding from a variety of sources that I list out here, and also, again, show percentages and show revenue sources that definitely DPR currently relies on for the operating budget, which includes private donations, events and programs, city contributions, and other. The pie chart shows the breakdown of our funding sources. So the bid comprises 34% of our overall budget. Events, earned revenue is 41%. City contribution, 10%, private donation, 6%, and we're still utilizing excess stadium taxes to implement public art and streetscape funds, and that comprises 9% of our budget. Each year we do pull data from Wisconsin Main Street just to do a comparison on some key metrics to see how we're performing compared to some benchmark communities. Line 2 is DPR. I kind of tried to put it in bold to highlight. And then the bottom, the second from the last line, shows the benchmark average. Also put a median number in there because obviously numbers can be skewed. We've consistently, year after year, are performing above average on many metrics. I think important metrics like net new businesses. And this is 2022, 2023 data. The Wisconsin Main Street report, their fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th. So that's how we get that data. So net new businesses for downtown De Pere is 11. So I believe we had 15 businesses open and 4 closed. Benchmark average is 7. Net new jobs, 75, which the benchmark average is 25. Private investment, and that includes property sales and property improvements, both interior, exterior, 15 million, and benchmark average is 5 million. We are a little low on number of events and event attendance compared to the averages, but still I think we have a good mix of activity that brings people downtown. Our community is also, I think, the second smallest as far as population goes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is the bike race in there?
Yeah, it is. I was like,
Really?
I had to think about dates.
40,000 seems low to me.
Not really. I mean, our farmers market, a lot of our events, and we don't include, a lot of our events draw, like farmers markets, like 500, 750 a week. Art walks about Angela's here. I'm going to look at Angela. I think like 2,000. Okay. So but that is in there.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. It will definitely, I'm anticipating the jump next year because year one, we had successful attendance, but I think we'll easily exceed that.
Are there any other benchmark cities that we've considered or?
I know we've talked about others that aren't in the Main Street program though, and I think that's one of the challenges that we get. Like all of this information, Main Street programs are required to report, but I think we can always look at additional ones. I thought we had Nina in the past. I'll have to look at that. And I know we've done some analysis like with larger communities on other metrics like Appleton and Green Bay, like more that are more regional business improvement districts, but they're not Main Street programs.
That would be the only thing I would ask is that every year we're doing a search either with Aaron or even with our own bid community of just what other cities are you hearing that are on the move.
Okay.
You might want to add to this. So it
Let me do that.
fail.
Add additional.
And Aaron is part of Wisconsin Main Street. He's only going to be part of those ones. She won't be involved in bids that aren't part of Wisconsin Main Street. So she'll only have the data that's here. So.
Okay. Okay. I think we can kind of skip over this. This just highlights all of the activities that we're involved in. Streetscape improvements, primarily the concrete planters, the seasonal flowers, murals, sculptures. We did new street pole banners for the summer season. Our promotions.
New sculpture as well. New sculpture.
New sculpture, yeah. And I think I have that highlighted on the 2023. It gets confusing. This is a 2022 report, but there's been so much work that has happened in 2023. So I do have a page further on that lists all of the current activities. So I think a lot of this might be repeated, so we can skip on to just kind of some more metrics. Next page, Dan. Just to show kind of more by the numbers. And these are items that are important and that are identified in our operating plan, such as providing technical assistance to businesses. So we provided direct technical assistance to 28 businesses. We worked with 33 businesses and provided assistance in securing bounce back grants. And then our staff and board attended 14 training and consultation sessions.
Can I ask a question? Can you give me an idea, what is technical assistance?
Technical assistance is anything from like assistance helping with marketing, social media, window displays, merchandising, grant writing. Trying to think what else. Those are usually the more typical ones. But that could also include helping with business plan or accounting.
I guess my question is more of how do we do that? When you provide technical, assistance, is it referencing them to what the Main Street program has online, or do we actually have somebody from Main Street program go and work through it with them and then like hit?
It's mostly, I think, half of those were direct one-on-one consults with Wisconsin Main Street, with either Main Street staff or because that's one of the benefits of being a Main Street program is, and those are opportunities that we communicate regularly to businesses via our Business Insight newsletter. But there's a list of services that as a Main Street program, we can provide through that program to businesses at no cost. I do feel that's probably an underutilized program. I think it's something that, we want to continue to really push and emphasize. So I know that's an area that I'd like to see that number even higher. So about half is that, and the other half is more one-on-one staff time. So the areas that we feel we can help. As, for instance, Angela is helping Deep Your Cinema right now enhance and kind of make their social media more. And she's had like a couple of one-on-one meetings to get that going. A lot of the assistance I provide is more from the grant writing standpoint. Like I will help obviously direct to grants, but then also review and edit and such. But the Economic Enhancement Committee is also talking, one of the things that we'd like to implement is more of a mentorship. Maya is actually on that committee and has kind of introduced that concept to the committee. And then also an advisory where we could actually have, WASA does it, an advisory, and they do it really well, where we could identify like, let's say 20 areas of expertise and find someone in the community that will provide that service, maybe like an hour consult at no charge, and someone like experts in those areas. So that's something have talked about.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I think from the marketing standpoint, we all understand right now that social dominates versus we're not running TV ads or radio ads or anything. So we have some stats that show where we're at compared to a year ago. Our Facebook followers is up 9%, which I think a year ago it was up like 40%. Not that we've plateaued, but I think 11,682 in a community of 24,000 is a pretty solid figure. And just as an example, on Broadway, serves the greater Green Bay area, they have 15,000 followers. So I'm really proud of that and the efforts of our staff in getting us there. For those of you that don't know Angela, I'll introduce. This is Angela White, our marketing and events coordinator. She's been with us since February 1st. And is doing this is really, the social is her baby. So our page reach is up 57%, page visits up 119%. And now Instagram is something that Angela, the last 6 months, has really worked on activating more. So we're gonna continue to see an uptick in that. But we are up almost 16% in followers, 100% in profile reaches, and 83% in profile visits. On the bottom, in the spotlight, this is something that we have not tracked, but we are starting to track. So in next year's report, we'll be able to have more detail, but we do get a tremendous amount of media stories, whether it's live, on-site, in-studio, taped content, but just throughout the year that highlights our downtown through our events and then just other exclusive news stories. So that's an area that we will start to track. Next page, and some of this I don't think I need to go by line because I think some of it when we go over our operating plan, some of it's going to come out of that. But these are just kind of the primary activities that we've been working on in 2023. So we'll have more report on that next year. And these are activities that were identified as priority projects through the operating plan. I don't know if you want me to run through them or. Yeah?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
There's questions.
Yep. Okay. Oh, and that's it. Thank you. Any questions at this point?
I do have one. How do you plan, have you already made arrangements to work with the Multicultural Center?
We have established a really good relationship with Tom Shefchuk, who's the executive director of community engagement. I'm really excited about Ann Danens. I don't, for those of you that don't know Ann, her husband Todd was very involved in Definitely Pere and was on our board. And Ann has been hired as the, I think, director of membership and events. So we've had several meetings and we have talked about, collaborating on marketing and promotions. And at this point, everything is really tied with Leonard and Finco. And I think everything is also very, the Malvas are, very involved in kind of determining what communication goes out. They have been very, now they've kind of pulled back on doing a lot of communication just because of the uncertainty of when are the doors really going to open. Initially there was this September 28th opening date and that came and passed. So they've kind of strategically been a little bit quiet, but yes, we will be working very close with them. And I'm excited. I think that and I've actually Marv Wall, I think is so I know that he'll be the new executive director or CEO, I believe, and then now they're hiring an executive director of operations, but Marv is kind of stepping into that main role because Mike. Just like, yeah, Mike is back. I don't know if he's off yet, but he's stepping away from. He was basically hired to get the facility open. So yeah. So we had the pleasure. Angela was with us. We spent an afternoon with our sister city delegates, and we got a tour. And that was still a construction hard hat tour, but Tom did say, because the mayor had asked, and he said that he would be happy to arrange a tour with city department heads, alders, and I think it would be appropriate for bid board members to be invited to that too. So that's something we can talk about.
Right.
Date. I'll follow up with actually the mayor. I'm meeting with him after this meeting.
All right. Any other comments, questions for Tina about last year's plan? Good. I think we're ready to move into our final topic of consideration and possible action of the 24 plan. Dan and Tina.
Yeah, I'll let Tina kind of take it on. I just want to remind the bid board that last year was the year in which we really kind of threw the project plan on its head, and we reorganized, did a bunch of work, and so this year's project plan is pretty similar. The main changes that you see in there may come from some of the reporting elements out, and the total bid calculations, but no assessment changes are being proposed. I have all the proposed objectives in there, but I just want to remind the board that last year was the year we went through multiple meetings of throwing the plan more or less on its head and starting fresh. So we didn't do that again this year. It's primarily a lot of the same sort of goals and objectives and actions that we can have for discussion. But I know, Tom, you also wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we've been engaging in to understand for future bid plans, and so that I also have some slides here for that. So,
all right, let's roll.
All right. So, on the very high end, the bid is obviously funded through the assessment, and no proposed assessment changes per rate, I guess you'd say. Overall number changes because as we've added value from stuff like Cobblestone Hotel and others that are being improved, that the bid overall value has increased slightly from last year. I have that in the project plan. But also the city's increased its funding portion over the past 2 years. We actually increased $5,000 in 2021, $5,000 in 2022, and it's meant to stay at that level. So our overall bid funding and community support has been increasing. But the city also did contribute $100,000 of ARPA funding towards streetscape elements in 2023 and 2024. So there's additional elements that are not here, but I did want to make sure that the bid was aware of that. So I can go through them all here. They're all just up on the screen, proposed actions. Last year we organized them into our proposed objectives that sort of mesh with what the bid's objectives are, plus the city's objectives, and sort of kind of meet in the middle. Make downtown a destination. We want to continue to support our businesses that we have. We know that our businesses in the region are kind of key drivers to our downtown. People come to our businesses, and so kind of keeping that driver going. We want to make sure that as we have the Mulva Center and others, we keep adding life to the district, making sure that we become that experience-based community. We want to make sure that we look at those public realm opportunities, and that's the exact reason why the ARPA funding was set towards more murals and more streetscape elements in our downtown. Again, part of the ARPA funding is for one of our alleys to be more pedestrian friendly and more pedestrian focused, and so making sure our downtown is more walkable and bikeable, integrating those other elements. Creating new neighborhoods in our downtown. As we add more multifamily, we have opportunities to create more character feel. So again, try to work on creating that neighborhood feel for individuals residing in our downtown. And the last one again is sort of balancing growth and redevelopment with your character of your community as well. So understanding that there is a balance, there's always going to be a balance, and finding that balance is key. So that's the majority of the objectives of the project plan. These were shortened down from several years ago because the main actions of the project plan are geared in about 5 different buckets. Business retention expansion / development projects. And so you can see that every one of these actions has direct actions by the bid, as well as then contracted through Definitely to Peer. And then a support action by Definitely to Peer through some other means. Again, because the bid only funds 34% of Definitely to Peer's budget, there may be other stuff that they do that is, I guess you'd say, not quite in the bid scope, but still sort of touches on those elements. And so that's the reason why you see a direct action and a support action. So I can touch on any one of these. Streetscaping elements, you can see that there's really only the direct action by the bid, because the bid really wanted to focus on the business retention components and the expansion components. But there is support actions that Definitely to Peer does that the bid does not. Property improvements, you can see those direct actions and support actions. I won't kind of go through all of them, but we've really started to focus in on that 400 block of Main Avenue, the alley behind it, and really improving the facade. So you start to see some facade changes over the next few years, and then also hopefully a gigantic mural.
That's in the works. And I'll just add so these direct actions and the actions that is on that page that I have the 2023 highlights. So obviously that'll all be in next year's report, but you can refer to that to see, like, okay, here are the things that we have already accomplished. And we pretty much hit on
a lot of them.
All of them almost.
Then there's a bucket of just general and operational items, and again, that's just a requirement that we have to do as a bid, and then a variety of other, I guess you'd say, kind of low-hanging fruit that kind of just couldn't get really put into any other buckets. So it's in that general operational bucket. So there's a lot of direct actions that are involved in there, and then there's the support actions, and then additional downtown to Peer actions. So that's it for the project plan. Again, not a lot of changes from last year, but again, that was the reason for it. We spent a lot of time the previous year doing all those changes. So for Tom, the next slide was for snow clearing.
Yeah, so I wanted to, I've communicated out to the bid via email on some homework we did over the last year. Catalyst for this was there were a number of businesses that actually Andy was helping to coordinate for snow removal, sidewalk snow removal in the district. That just continued to grow and got to a point where it just wasn't appropriate, quite honestly, to have one of our bid members continue to manage that process. So we brought the city and Definitely to Peer into conversation with a small group to start thinking about other options. So today, no action on this today. Really just more informational of the homework that we've done so far. But I would like to just, as part of our edit to the plan, Dan and Tina add this pilot work that we're going to plan to do this winter to the direct actions that we are going to take, which is going to be Definitely the Peer taking over the administrative work of snow removal in this pilot project for the winter. That's then going to inform recommendation for next year for the entire downtown. So with that, let's just hit a couple of these slides just to give an overview of the homework that we've done, and Dan, you can facilitate that.
Yep.
You got some numbers that you want to share.
Yeah, so,
By the way, this goes directly to, I think it was objective number 6 of walkability.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about trying to make our downtown as walkable friendly all year round, shopper friendly all year round, this goes right at that. So it's not just snow removal. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Yep. So as you meant, that was great tee off there. The impetus behind this is not every property owner maintains sidewalks in the winter the same, and we, every business is different. Their hours are different. Sometimes it may not be a business that is maybe service or retail based; it's more service based, and so their hours of when they actually do snow removal are maybe different from others. And that can lead to a challenge in your downtown when we don't have a cohesive network of snow removal after a heavy snow event. We potentially have situations with people trying to traverse areas that becomes a little bit more of a challenge, especially for those that aren't as able-bodied as others. And so earlier this year, the staff members of Definitely Pere, BID, City, and some others sat down to try to figure out what's the kind of, I guess you'd say, pilot case for could this be done. And while we don't have a true scenario yet, we did want to kind of show what we've done so far. We took a look at the overall entire downtown with the black boundary. It's a little hard to see on this map, so I apologize. And understand that the downtown BID boundary may not be the full boundary that we want to do complete snow removal for. So is it the true core of our downtown that is more of the pedestrian focus that we really wanted to kind of tie in? So that's what you see in the red, and it's a little hard to see on the screen here, but the green as well. So we said if we're going to do a downtown core snow removal analysis, let's look at the properties that are immediately adjacent to those that are walking, and those that are, I guess you'd say, the most available for either a bid assessment. So you may see some on here that look like it should be included, but the reason why is, as you can kind of see on the map here, we have a 100% residentially assessed property, and as a result is not eligible to be part of a bid assessment, so therefore it's just not included. But we also do see that there's some green, and that's where the city of De Pere currently operates snow removal as part of our kind of snow clearing. So as we look on both sides, you can kind of see the overall components. My transition did not switch to the east side map. My apologies. I had a transition in there that is not working, my animation or whatever. So my apologies. But very similar map on the east side, and we identified in that core. Really what it came down to is we didn't go as far down George Street. Where here we stuck a little bit on the west side. We stuck on the east side of 5th. On the east side, we stuck pretty much west of Michigan on George Street, or I think
No, it was Superior.
Superior. That's what it was. Caliente, more or less.
Yeah.
Westward. Because as we get further to the west, when we get to the school and a variety of others, those become very auto-dominant businesses where people are driving to that destination. And so as a result, it was a little bit different, and we started to kind of extend out a little too far. So overall, I do have the numbers on here. Tom, did you want to kind of walk through those or what we kind of came into?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we had about a total linear footage of about 19,000 feet when we did that, of either bid assessment or city. And the reason why the city was involved is there's an opportunity for the city to also be part of this one so that we can be part of that snow clearing element as well. And the city can then send its staff to do things outside of the downtown for snow clearing. So it's about 19,000 square feet. I think I said 1,900 if I did. 19,000 square feet. We broke it down into, I guess you say, categories. And I have pushes on here, 1 through 10, 11 through 15, 16 through 20. They're all in the same category now, but that's just my calculation to show if that number did flex and increase. But in short, what we're looking at is not only snow clearing, but also saltings. And saltings is a big challenge because you just never know what the weather is going to do. Snow pushes, we can be a little bit more deliberate, but if you get heavy rain events or some icing events, it becomes a little bit of a challenge. And so we had to make some assumptions. There's a lot of numbers behind that one, but what really it came down to is for us to do that at this rate of about 27 cents per linear foot per push, it comes down to be about $150,000 annually to do snow removal in the downtown as part of a contracted work. If we base it off of the numbers. And the numbers that we came from a local contractor who would be proposing to do it. So it was just with one, it was just to help us get our arms around what's been going on so far. But as you can take a look at when you combine the pushes, the saltings, and a contingency, about $150,000. You take the contingency away of 5 extra pushes, $125,000. So as we get to this first year, we probably need to build in a contingency and then have that be a segregated rollover fund to be able to capitalize on that if we ever need to. So, but in short, we're looking at about $150,000 for snow removal.
So as we were going through this, and then we broke it out literally by bid building, there ended up being about 12 to 15 properties that were like, holy cow, these are big numbers. It ranged like from $6,000 to $10,000 per year for those. So we decided to pull back a little bit instead of making a blanket recommendation now this year. We wanted to spend some time with those 8 to 10 property owners, and we've already talked with 3 or 4 of them, and they're super excited about this. They'd actually prefer to start transitioning this, I think, away from their own contractors. One of the properties contractors retiring, so it's a natural, transition. But it just didn't feel, it still felt too fast. We just needed some more dialogue around this. So we said, what would be the next best option? So we said, let's do a pilot this winter, which would start shifting the administrative functions over to Tina for all invoicing and sort of go-to coordination for our snow removal contractor. That gets that off of a bid member, having to do that. So that made a lot of sense. We said, that'll be good practice this winter, to start doing that. So that'll be sort of good to do that in a pilot format, so you don't have the whole downtown to have to figure out all right away this year. But then we said, let's get a communication out to the bid, updating them on this, which they've all been updated on, and encouraged by me to say, if you're not already serviced by Landscape Artisans, the contractor who's been doing this, and are interested to join the pilot, you can join the pilot. So if you're happy with what you're currently doing this year, just keep doing it. It's last minute, so I don't want people having to feel like they're having to make that decision. We've already had a number of building owners just voluntarily say, yep, I'm interested, including a couple of those large properties, which is, again, good because it'll give us an opportunity to start managing and having communication with some of those larger property owners as well. And Lance from Landscape Artisans has been super good to say, yep, we've already made some capital acquisitions, so they've already, even with going forward, they were already making some capital investments. So this will be a good test winter. So we're going to do that, going to get a lot of feedback, give Tina a runway to start doing the administrative piece and learn that, do some good conversation with the bid, hold some sessions spring and summer, and then be ready by really end of summer. So we're way ahead of this next year. We'll probably do a special session, bid session, early fall to come with our recommendation to do the entire downtown. And this basically would end up being a similar, instead of it being an addition to the current $2 per thousand bid assessment, this would be a special assessment, similar to what we're doing with our garbage removal currently. But we'll work through that too. We'll come up with some ideas and strategies and have that all ready for next year's recommendation. So with that, any questions related just to the pilot idea or suggestions or ideas to make that even better this winter?
My question would be between the road, the curb, and the sidewalk. Is that addressed in these numbers?
No, so this is strictly just taking the clear path, the required sidewalk clearing path. Part of the discussions during that time were also, now that we have the opportunity to be more involved with one agency, there's a little bit more coordination that can also happen with the city for clearing purposes and a variety of other things. So DPW, when it comes in, when the snowbanks get too tall and a variety of other things, that's when we can have a little bit greater communication involved in that one. This is strictly just clearing the sidewalks to the ADA requirements, 4 or 5 feet, plus the curb ramps and a variety of other things that are the natural pedestrian walking areas. Obviously, we're going to try to keep as much available when it comes to splitting up making sure that you have a pathway to a parallel parking spot, but not everyone is going to be there. There's going to have to be a place to put it temporarily. So this does not involve immediately trucking off.
Speaking of my property, that's the biggest concern, right? So I've owned my place 10 years. The sidewalks are relatively good, right? Everybody does a pretty decent job. But it's that space right in between. People can't get out of their cars. So if it's only a driver, you're okay. If they've got a passenger, it's tough.
We're getting out the driver's side.
Sometimes they can't, and even if you do clear one or two spaces, it's someone parks in front of it typically. So to me, that's the biggest concern. Now, when I've called before, they've said, oh, usually within 24 hours or 48 hours. It's almost never that quick. And then it's iced over. I mean, I've seen people trying to climb over those. So to me, that, at least for Main and Broadway, that has to be addressed. Because it's really tough. If we're talking walkability and making it easy, for me, it's not a problem personally, because I don't worry about it. But watching people try to navigate those, and it ices over, and then it becomes almost impossible to get over.
Yeah, that was common feedback we got as we were talking through this. So I think a couple things. Again, taking this, one step at a time. This gets our administrative shifted over to Tina and definitely Pere, which I think is a really smart move to just administratively get this in the right location, so we don't have a bid member trying to manage all this stuff. Then we'll get as many people as possible part of the pilot. We'll start learning this winter, which can also start being some intentional integration with the city, planning with the city. Tina's got, and if anybody else has any other communities that are doing a good job of this, let us know. But Tina's doing some outreach to communities that are handling this differently, just to give us some ideas. And one of them was like pushing everything out to the middle, and
vacuuming it
through and suck it up, and get it out of here.
It'd be interesting to go see.
But I think we just
after a snowfall.
We just got to learn as much as possible. I mean, snow is just a reality in our downtown experience. So how do we get rid of it as efficiently as possible, as cost effectively as possible? Part of it, I think, just starts with coordinating better with the city. And if we had one contractor, we could start doing a better job of that coordination, and then start saying what's next. How do we resolve this issue? Let's get the sidewalks done, and how do we take it to another level of cleanup?
I know Marshville is one of those that shoves it into the middle, but they have a boulevard essentially down the middle of their entire main street, and it's one main street real long. And then by shoving it into the middle, just because I lived in that area for a while, you can't see to make a turn unless you're in a really tall vehicle, because the snowbank's there. So if you want to turn left, for example, going down, well, the bloody snowbanks in the middle block your view of whatever traffic's coming. And so they have a lot of problems that way too. So there's always pros and cons.
Right.
We'll from our end at the city end, we'll continue to discuss what's the best way to do it, what's the best way to manage it, and obviously try to get what will work best. But there will be some limitations.
So the request I have to the bid members and to Tina is get the word out. Send an email out to everybody, but get the word out. If you want to join the pilot, let Tina and Lance know.
And Travis with Landscape Artisans and I talked last week, and we're going to get together. We kind of set a deadline of next Friday just for him, to start planning better. But he's helping identify, especially the ones that are kind of in between the ones that they're already doing. And next week I plan on making phone calls, sending text messages, making in-person visits just to, really make sure that they understand, are aware. So I'm hoping that we'll definitely have more involvement.
And Tina and I've talked that not only does this make sense administratively, but I think it's just another great strategic outreach that Tina and team can do during the winter season, with property owners as well, to just stay in touch. So that'll be good.
Well, and I think it'll be, I mean, I'm glad that you brought that up earlier, just about making it more pedestrian friendly. But that is, a lot of downtowns do struggle with, customer traffic in the winter months because people just don't even want to deal with it. But I think, we may not see, immediate results. I mean, it might, but I think over the years, we definitely should see, more activity, more sales, more shopping, just a better season, because I think people will just know that it's a welcoming environment in the winter months. I'm excited for that.
So anyway, thank you for taking that on, Tina, as part of this year's pilot. We'll come back with a more formal recommendation later in the 24 fiscal year. Any other comments on the 24 plan? I have just one other comment. But any other comments?
I have one as well.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
One of the concerns, I guess, that I have is, and I think you guys are addressing it, but I just wanted to double check. When we have a new business come in, how do you make them aware of what to do, how to do, when it comes to things like parking, services, et cetera, what their expectations are, and how things typically work or don't work within the downtown, that type of thing? Do you do like a welcome packet type of thing that gives them that type of guidance so they don't feel like, well, I would have never come here had I known this, or something along those lines?
Yeah, so we do, and that's one of the projects that the Economic Enhancement worked on this year, is we developed a business owner brochure. It's online. We haven't printed yet, but we are going to print it. But we have it online. And then actually Dan's, we do direct new businesses to the city website as well. Dan's Development Services or Economic Development area of the website has been redone and enhanced, and there's a wealth of information. But the guide is more simple, and a lot of it's who to contact. And then we have parking maps. We do have the parking maps linked on our website, and that's in that brochure. For parking, you go here, garbage collection, snow removal, and then obviously any questions regarding events and marketing. So they're basically either being directed to definitely to Pere or to Dan or Public Works.
Because, from the city's end, one of the things we talked about, whether or not we should be putting something up, but we don't know when businesses are coming and going.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit difficult because we have so many departments, from the health department doing inspections for restaurants or weights and measures. They'll have the fire department doing inspections for fire safety and different things. The parking control, the people going out doing the things with that. Whether you're going to need to put your garbage into a large dumpster or you have to contract yourself. There's just a whole bunch of things from all our different departments that are involved. And often people come in with expectations from where either they used to have a business or where they're familiar with, and it might be different here. So I just want to make sure that somehow we're getting the information to new businesses so that they're not caught off guard or expecting something different than how things are operating. Right.
And in that resource, we do have, licensing, permitting, all of that, building inspection, all those contacts. But I think, maybe one thing that would be valuable is even at least once a year if we all sat down, with the health department and, and the building inspector, and just kind of, talked about how are things going and how have they been going and how can we make the communication better. We do also meet, we have some property owners like Andy Trans here that is really, really good about reaching out to us and giving our information to their tenants. So that's one thing that, we, as soon as we know about a new business, we do reach out and we have a face-to-face, and, we kind of provide information on all of our services and get those businesses connected right away to all of our resources. And then we obviously coordinate ribbon cuttings and welcome features in the newsletter and try to get them more, introduce them more to the local business community too, not just the aspect that you're talking about. And I know, Maya, do you want to chime in? Because I know one of the things that you had an idea about is trying to provide better mentorship for new businesses.
Yeah, I think one of the things that communities like ours, we tried to initiate a block captain situation, which would have somebody on each block that would kind of help with the retention of the existing businesses, help keep them up to speed on things going on. But that really puts a lot of burden on one individual business or business owner or person within that block. But if we can have something that, we have a new restaurant that's opening up, and we can, kind of survey the existing restaurant owners in the area to say who has the bandwidth to take this on right now, so that it's not like one person for a year or 2 years or 3 years. It's who's got the bandwidth and what other business is similar to this, where they could offer some advice and assistance on how to get their business going.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the plan for 24? The other thing I wanted to just mention and remind us, when we did this reshuffle last year, there were two sort of pilot projects that we lifted up. One was the walkability and snow removal thing. We've made some good progress on that. But the other one that we haven't made as much progress on, which I don't see as a big dollar amount during 24, but it'll be exploration, similar to what we're doing with snow removal right now, is a much more strategic marketing plan in partnership with Discover Green Bay. They got sidetracked a little bit with the draft fell right in the week of the first meeting, and I think it was 2 weeks after the draft got announced. So Bridget O'Connor's running point on that one, and keeping Tina engaged in that, but it's got super big potential for us to just elevate big time. Geofencing, pushing the 5 million visitors that are coming to the Green Bay area in the course of the year. How are we pushing and pulling, guests into the downtown De Pere option? So more to come on that, but I just want to highlight that as one of the direct actions that we continue to plan to do in 2024 with Bridget and Tina's help. And, has the potential to be a huge dollar amount, so it gets a little scary when you start looking at it. In the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it won't be one that moves super fast, but it's one that I think is super important for us to investigate and look at. And that may be a combination of private, foundation, state, city, bid in order to pull it off. But it's a big idea, and I think people will be pretty excited about it once we get into it. So more to come on that. With that, I think no other questions. We need to make a motion to move this to council for final approval, right?
Yep, and based off the conversations here with the 3 comments of adding or maybe fleshing out a little bit more about the pilot snow removal in the packet, adding the welcome packet, something about being more diligent about a coordinated approach to welcoming, and then maybe under marketing and branding 2A, maybe a little bit more specific to actually Discover Green Bay. So those are the 3 changes.
We can even just highlight that as a pilot project in 24.
So those are the 3 changes that you've identified today so far.
All right, so with those changes, do we have a motion to move this to council for final approval? I'll motion. Motion by Rich, second.
I'll second.
Second by Maya, all in favor?
Aye.
So approved. Any other comments?
I have one.
Maya, please.
I think last year at this time I made a suggestion that we meet more often than we do. Wondering if we can entertain that idea today. I feel like having a 2022 readout at the end of 2023, we're missing a lot of what we've done in 2023, and it's not even fresh on everyone's mind. So if we could meet earlier in the year to get the readout, and then maybe meet again in the fall like this to kind of quickly recap, and then also say, and also we've done this throughout the year, and then move into the plan for next year.
Yeah, that, not only is that a great suggestion, but we had talked about doing that. I think I shared that with everybody, that would be better to have a mid-year check-in, because that would be good for these pilot projects too, to get some action and recommendations for them.
And I do want to remind the board that the bid board's relationship with the city of De Pere is probably different than most other bids throughout the state. you don't have to meet here. It doesn't have to be organized by the city. It's your piece and process. We just happen to do it because that's the way it's been done. But Green Bay, Janesville, Wausau, they have their bid meetings as standalone meetings, not in a city facility. They don't do it amongst the recording software because it's technically the bid board. So it's really, if you start to go down that path, it's not like it has to be, we need to facilitate in this council chambers and here and stuff like that. We can discuss other approaches as you want to get more and more intentional about meetings, maybe on a monthly basis or anything else like that. As long as the meeting minutes are held, recorded, and kept, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Here's what I'd like to suggest as a first step, and if you'd be willing to just champion this, because it won't be a heavy lift, but keep us accountable on doing that. Let's keep this as our formal meeting. It'll be here. It's where we approve the next year's plan. And then if we could start with at least one more meeting that optional, because we don't have to have a quorum, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be more informational and planning kind of related. And if we have some, mid-year decisions or mid-year recommendations we want to make for this meeting, it could be utilized for that as well.
Sure. Well, that you would need a quorum for if you're going to make decisions.
Yep.
But if you're just giving information, gathering information.
Yeah, I guess I misspoke. I didn't. It's not to gather information to make recommendations. The decisions to be made at this meeting.
I think the meetings would still be under Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, they'll still have
per our bylaws,
yep.
or per the bid board bylaws.
Just doesn't have to be
here, right?
Wait a second.
But
I think we're talking about two separate things. Maybe, but Myra,
let's
push back on that.
No. Hybrid of the two. I think I would like one more formal meeting.
I haven't heard that one.
Earlier in the year, because I do think there's value to hearing the readout of the previous year more soon after it completes, right? We're like almost through the following year already.
Yeah.
And then I think, to your point, some other maybe more informal or not as formal meetings where we have the whole presentation and all that, we could have off-site.
So could you run point on that
Mm-hmm.
and make that and just reach out to the bid members and get feedback and develop here's a recommendation.
Yeah.
Like
and
for 24.
Yeah, absolutely. And in part with that, I think, I know you've been doing a lot of work off to the side with the snow removal conversations and all of those things, but I would love to be more involved in that as well, because I feel like you do all this work and we could also participate in helping with that, and even just being aware of it, because then it's, not all at once, here's all this information.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy to follow up on that.
So we will do that as an action. Coming out of this meeting, also have a recommended sort of planning calendar, meeting calendar for 2024 and beyond. All right. Any other comments, actions, discussion? Do we need a movement to adjourn? Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks, Dan and Tina. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.